Gotta get pump going before this video. What's up everyone, welcome back to Lace Up Channel. My name is Mickey. In today's video, we are talking about how a WMS works in a service-based company. Now when I say service-based, I'm talking about a business that does jobs, whether it be installing kitchen cabinets or putting in a bathroom or remodeling portions of the home, a business that does a job that requires inventory to execute said job. In this video, we're going to walk you through exactly what a WMS needs to do and how inventory needs to be controlled within your business in order to keep accurate track of everything you have in your warehouse. Anyways, let's get right into it. So every job-based business is predicated on allocations. This means product coming in from a vendor allocated to a specific job. Let me give you an example. Let's say hypothetically that you are an individual who installs kitchens, and every time you install a kitchen, that's called a job, and when you initiate a job, you need sales orders. The sales orders have all of the components of the job. So normally when you put the job in, the sales orders are generated, and now you have to either pull from available stock in the warehouse or you have to put in purchase orders to your vendors so that they will deliver to you the stock that's inevitably going to end up on that job. Now where this gets interesting is that in most situations you've only got 10 to 20% of the product available in your warehouse, which means when you actually receive that job and the sales orders are generated, you have to place 80% of those products that you need for that job on purchase order. Now what that does in a good WMS is that it links a purchase order line to a sales order line. So let's say I need cabinets, right? And those cabinets need to be ordered for a specific job. I'm going to send out the PO. The cabinets will get manufactured and shipped to me. Now, once I receive those cabinets, my WMS should be able to tag those cabinets as part of that job and inevitably receive those cabinets into the warehouse. So that creates what we call an allocation. Those cabinets are associated to that job, which means I can't just go take those cabinets and use them for whatever job I want. And the thing that actually associates those cabinets to that job is a little tag. The tag should contain the job number, it should contain the item number for those cabinets, and it should make the link official. So I think that's a good segue. Now that you know what an allocation is, now that you know how you receive items from a vendor and associate them to a sales order, let's now talk about the picking process. So in most of these businesses again that do jobs, you don't pick a job or a sales order for a job until all of the items are available. Now the reason is because the difference between doing a job and sending out, I don't know, a pallet of bananas as a distributor is that when you do a job, you need all of the components to complete the job, right? So most of my customers who do, for instance, electrician jobs, and they need to go out and install a wire or something at a house, they wait until they get all of the product first before picking the product and staging it to be shipped. Now, once it gets staged, inevitably gets loaded out onto a van or a truck, and it goes out to the customer. So here's where the magic happens. A good WMS, when the product goes out officially on a truck, will deduct the inventory from your main warehouse and increase the inventory on your truck. That's what we call a transfer. A transfer moves product from one location to the other. So at this juncture, you should be able to see just how many of those products you have in your warehouse and exactly what jobs you have on a truck. So let's say your technician arrives at the customer, does the job. At the end of that job, that technician is going to have some leftover consumables. I'm sure they didn't use all of the wood. I'm sure they didn't use all of the glue. I'm sure they didn't use all of the screws. They've got something left over. That product must be returned from the van, from the truck, back to the warehouse, and it must be assigned back to a bin location before you conclude the job so that the job inventory will deduct from the van and leave the van empty for the following day's job. So at this juncture, you're probably like, oh, Mickey, oh, you're basically telling me how it works. Well, Johnny, The difference between how you work and how a WMS works is that the WMS is going to tell you exactly what inventory for what job is in your warehouse and what inventory for what job is in your truck, which means that you will be more accurate in making your purchase orders. Not just that, but here's where the true magic happens with a system like this, is that in most service-oriented businesses where you do jobs, you need to oftentimes push out jobs that are an emergency, jobs that need to go out right now, which means that you need to unallocate product from one job and allocate it to another. This happens, for instance, when you have an emergency job come up today and you've got a job going out in a month that's got half of the products allocated to that job that you need for this one. Well, what you would do in that situation, you would unallocate from the future job, allocate to the present job, and push that job out as soon as possible to give that customer as good a service as possible. So that's what we call allocating and unallocating, as well as tracking exactly what job, what product goes to. So now, at this juncture, we've pretty much covered every operation within one of these warehouses. The only things left are transfers and counting. So let's get into transfers. Most operations that do these jobs have a level of scale that and sophistication that most distributors that I work with don't. I've got a very small fragment of my biggest customers that actually do this. They've got multiple warehouses wherein they store product for their jobs. And in order to get product to move from one warehouse to another, they have to initiate something called a transfer order. Now, transfer orders are normally initiated when you've got product. A product that's sitting that doesn't have a job allocated to it in a warehouse where someone else in another warehouse needs that product to be able to complete a job as soon as possible. So at that juncture, a good WMS will allow the person that needs the product to generate a transfer order, the transfer order to flow to this person over here's gun or handheld, scan the product, and ship that product over to the warehouse that needs it. Once the product arrives, it gets received by the individual that needs it and inevitably picked to go out on a job. Now, this sounds like a very complex process, but at the end of the day, when you've got inventory shared across multiple warehouses, you have to create these transfer orders to replenish stock quickly and put out jobs or do jobs as fast as possible. Another thing that a WMS does, not only does it allow you to see your inventory live, do your allocations, but it triggers your transfer orders and it triggers your purchasing based on minimums and reorder points. Again, we're talking specifically about products that are inventoriable, not those allocated to jobs, but you guys get the picture. Transfers are a vital part of any WMS in your industry. And I think that's the final segue into counting. So counting is kind of the secret sauce that makes all of this works. Without counting, you can never have an initial launch pad for an accurate inventory. So a WMS allows you to enter cycle counts and count bin locations for a specific item or for a set of items within that bin. Now, normally my customers, they initiate these cycle counts on a monthly basis to ensure that their warehouses are counted and that overages or shortages are accounted for. So let me give you an example. A shortage would be that the system expects a certain warehouse to have a certain product, and when you go look for that product, the product's not there. Whereas an overage is you go and you're counting the product and all of a sudden you encounter a product that's there that wasn't supposed to be there. It's normally a product that wasn't received accurately into the system or put away correctly. So a WMS will account for these overages and shortages, and at the end of a period it'll give you a balance with all the pluses and all the minuses. Somebody who's actually doing an adequate job of tracking inventory will have those pluses and minuses cancel each other out, and what you have left over is a zero, meaning that you don't have any true overages or shortages. But most of my customers, they maintain a buffer of about 5% of their inventory, and that to me is high. It's 5% because not all of my customers have the manpower to actually track the inventory. But if you have the manpower, if you have the people and the processes and the scale and the structure to actually do these jobs, then what you need to do, I think, is you need to put the people in place to track this inventory accurately, to do the proper cycle counts, to find the errors in your inventory and to address those errors so that they don't happen again. So I'm sorry for digressing. The bottom line is when you have a service-based business that does jobs, you've got these things called allocations, you've got these things called transfer orders, and you've got to maintain inventory in a different way, because most of the inventory that you order doesn't, or does almost always, have an allocation or an association to an existing job. So guys, the only way you will ever be able to track this inventory is either A, by tracking everything manually in Excel, or B, getting yourself a system that automates everything out in the warehouse. Now, look, of course I would love it if you called me for mine, but my recommendation is that you evaluate 4 or 5. Find the one that's going to be able to do this. It'll be able to do allocations to jobs. It'll be able to give you a live inventory value. It'll be able to set a reorder point to do a transfer from one warehouse to the other, or to purchase from your vendors to get there within a certain lead time. It'll allow you to do cycle counts, to where you can go cycle count a bin and actually put in the counts for your inventory. And last but not least, it will allow you to do your put away process, so that when you put the product away into its bin location, you can then easily find it, know what it is, and know what job it's allocated to. Oh, that was a tongue twister. Anyways, guys, that's it. I hope that video helped some of you, those of you that have this type of business. If it did, go down below, give me a comment. If it didn't, also go down below, give me a comment. Either way, give me a subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next video. Take care.